Before we begin, take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is not just philosophy. It's a way of life. Most people spend their entire lives searching for meaning, chasing success, recognition, love, and approval, believing that somewhere out there lies the key to fulfillment. But what if I told you that the most powerful tool for a meaningful life has been within you all along? It's not hidden in money, status, or the opinions of others. It's right here, your inner strength, your sense of purpose, your ability to stay calm when everything around you is falling apart. That's what the Stoics understood over 2,000 years ago. They believed that happiness and peace don't come from what happens to us, but from how we respond to it. Stoicism teaches us that the foundation of a fulfilled life rests on 4 timeless virtues: wisdom, the clarity to see things as they truly are; courage, the strength to face life's storms without fear; justice, the fairness to treat others and yourself with integrity; and temperance, the discipline to stay balanced in a world that constantly pulls you to extremes. When you build your life on these virtues, you stop chasing meaning, you become it. But here's the truth. Many of us have forgotten who we really are. We've been buried under layers of doubt, pressure, and social expectations. We measure ourselves by titles, numbers, and likes, instead of the quiet power within us. This video isn't about escaping the world. It's about returning to yourself, about stripping away everything false and remembering the core of who you are. Because when you rediscover that inner strength, the world around you begins to change too. You'll face challenges, yes, you'll stumble, fall, and rise again. But you'll do it with purpose, with clarity, and with peace. So let's begin this journey together. Not to become someone else, but to remember who we've always been. Because the truth is, you don't need to find your worth. You just need to stop forgetting it. 1. Why we often accept less than we deserve. Have you ever stayed somewhere you knew you didn't belong? Maybe it was a job that drained you, or a relationship that slowly dimmed your light. You told yourself it wasn't that bad. You convinced yourself you just needed to be more patient, more understanding, more grateful. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered, "You deserve more than this." And yet, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because fear and familiarity can be powerful chains. We stay because the unknown feels risky, because comfort, no matter how painful, feels safer than change. But here's the truth, the Stoics understood long ago. Your value isn't defined by your circumstances, it's defined by how you respond to them. You could be surrounded by chaos, betrayal, or disappointment, and still remain at peace if you refuse to let the outside world control your inner world. When we accept less than we deserve, we hand over that control. We give permission for others to decide how much we're worth. We stop leading our own lives and start settling for survival instead of fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's not just philosophy. It's a challenge, a call to stop negotiating your worth with people and situations that can't see it. Because every time you say yes to less, you say no to your potential. You silence the voice that's been asking for more peace, more growth, more alignment with who you truly are. So today, ask yourself, where are you settling? Where have you mistaken comfort for peace? And then, choose differently. Act from your values, not from your fears. The moment you start honoring your worth, life begins to rise to meet you. You don't need to fight for your value. You just need to stop giving it away. Do not recognizing your own achievements. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly stopped and appreciated yourself? Not in a proud, boastful way, but in an honest, grounded way. When was the last time you said, "I've worked hard for this. I've grown, I've overcome"? You see, so many of us are quick to recognize the success of others, but blind to our own progress. We downplay what we've done, saying things like, "It's no big deal," or "Anyone could have done it." But that small habit of refusing to acknowledge your own effort is a quiet form of self-neglect. The Stoics would remind us, achievement isn't just about results. It's the reflection of virtue in action, of courage when things were uncertain, of wisdom when you had to choose the harder path, of temperance when you held yourself steady in the storm. When you look back at something you've accomplished, don't just see the outcome. See the character that got you there. Every time you showed up when no one was watching, every time you did the right thing, even when it was uncomfortable. Those moments built you. Now, humility is a beautiful thing, but humility doesn't mean denying your worth. True humility is balance. It's recognizing your progress without arrogance and your flaws without shame. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." That same gratitude applies to your growth. It's not prideful to say, "I did that." It's truthful. So here's a simple Stoic practice. Think about one achievement, big or small, that you've reached recently. Then ask yourself, which virtue helped me get there? Was it courage, discipline, wisdom? You'll realize that your victories aren't accidents. They're proof of who you are becoming. So today, give yourself permission to pause, to acknowledge the person you've been building all along, because recognizing your effort isn't vanity, it's respect. And respect for yourself is where real strength begins. 3. Forgetting to care for yourself. Be honest with yourself for a moment. When was the last time you actually took care of you? Most of us have been taught to always give, to be there for everyone else, to keep saying yes, even when our soul is whispering, "I need a break." We tell ourselves it's noble, that putting others first makes us good, kind, selfless. But here's the truth the Stoics understood long before us. If you keep pouring from an empty cup, you're not helping anyone. You're slowly disappearing. When you constantly sacrifice your well-being for others, you lose connection with who you are. You start moving through life on autopilot, feeling tired, numb, or resentful. And the worst part? You begin to mistake exhaustion for purpose. Stoicism teaches that self-care is not selfish. It's an act of wisdom. Because if you want to serve others well, you must first have something left to give. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that reaction, your strength, your peace, your clarity, depends on how well you maintain yourself. The Stoics remind us to separate what's within our control from what's not. Your health, your habits, your mindset. These are yours to shape. But how others think, act, or feel, that's not your burden to carry. When you try to control what isn't yours, you drain your energy. But when you return your focus inward, your breath, your actions, your rest, you begin to recharge. So here's your reminder. Take a moment every day to come back to yourself. Meditate. Read something that nourishes your mind. Move your body. Set boundaries without guilt. Because when you care for yourself, you don't just heal your body, you strengthen your spirit. And from that strength, you can show up for others, not from emptiness, but from overflow. So the next time you feel guilty for resting, remember this. Even the Stoics knew, a steady mind and a strong heart can't grow in exhaustion. Rest isn't retreat. It's how you prepare for the next battle. 4. Struggling to accept compliments. Why is it so hard for us to simply say thank you? Think about it. Someone looks at you and says, "You did a great job," and almost instantly you feel the urge to downplay it. "Oh, it was nothing. Anyone could have done it. It's not that big of a deal." But here's the truth, that small moment reveals something much deeper. Our struggle to accept a compliment often shows how disconnected we are from our own worth. We've been taught that humility means shrinking ourselves, that if we acknowledge our strength, we're being arrogant. But that's not humility, that's self-denial. True humility isn't about pretending you're less than you are. It's about seeing yourself clearly, without exaggeration, without false modesty. It's the ability to recognize your effort, your growth, your light, and still stay grounded. The Stoics understood this balance well. They taught that self-awareness is the foundation of all virtue. And accepting a compliment with gratitude isn't vanity. It's a practice of truthfulness, When someone recognizes your effort, they're not inflating your ego. They're holding up a mirror. And in that mirror, you're given a chance to see yourself as you are, capable, evolving human. So the next time someone says you did amazing, don't rush to minimize it. Pause, breathe, look them in the eye and simply say, thank you. Not with pride, but with gratitude. Because that acknowledgement doesn't just honor their kindness, it honors your journey. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you keep telling yourself you're not enough, that you don't deserve praise, that color will start to define you. But when you accept appreciation with grace, you allow your mind to see truth. Not arrogance, not perfection, but genuine worth. So today, practice this simple Stoic act. When someone praises you, don't push it away. Accept it fully. Because doing so isn't about feeding the ego. It is about finally learning to see yourself as you truly are. The lack of confidence in yourself. Have you ever hesitated so long to make a decision that the opportunity simply slipped away? You kept thinking, what if I fail? What if I make the wrong choice? That fear, the fear of deciding, often comes from one simple source: a lack of confidence in ourselves. We doubt our ability to handle the outcome. We overthink every possibility, waiting for the perfect moment, a moment that never comes. But the Stoics remind us we are never in control of the result, only our actions and our intentions. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." That's where real power lies, not in predicting the future, but in owning the present. When you base your decisions on your values, on reason, on what feels right deep inside, you've already won. Because no matter how it turns out, you acted with integrity. You acted with courage. The Stoics didn't see failure as something to be feared. They saw it as the most honest teacher we'll ever have. Every mistake, every setback, it's simply feedback. It tells you, here's what to improve. Here's where to grow. Think about this. Every person you admire once made choices that terrified them. But they moved anyway. Not because they knew they would succeed, but because they trusted themselves to adapt, to learn, to endure. Confidence isn't about believing you'll never fail. It's about believing that whatever happens, you'll figure it out. So the next time you stand before a hard decision, don't wait for certainty. Ask yourself, what aligns with my values? What feels true to my character? Then act. And once you do, release the outcome. Because the Stoics knew, growth doesn't come from getting it right every time. It comes from showing up with courage, learning from the process, and continuing forward, stronger, wiser, more grounded. So stop fearing the choice. Start trusting yourself. That's how you turn doubt into direction. 6. Over-criticizing yourself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been your own worst critic? You achieve something, but instead of feeling proud, your mind whispers, you could have done better. You make one mistake, and suddenly it's, I'll never be enough. So many of us live with this quiet, constant self-judgment, setting standards so high that even perfection would fall short. But here's the truth the Stoics understood long ago. Perfection is an illusion. The real goal isn't to be flawless. It's to keep growing, one honest step at a time. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoics, ruled an empire yet wrote to himself every night about his own weaknesses. Not to shame himself, but to learn. He knew that self-awareness without self-compassion turns into cruelty. And cruelty, even toward yourself, never leads to greatness. Think about it. You would never speak to a close friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself. So why not extend that same kindness inward? That's what true strength looks like. Not tearing yourself down, but lifting yourself up when you fall. Progress, not perfection. That's the Stoic way. Because life isn't a straight climb. It's a series of stumbles, corrections, and small victories that shape who we become. Every time you notice your flaws, see them as evidence of your effort. Every mistake, a lesson in motion. Every setback, proof that you're still in the arena, still fighting, still alive. When you replace harsh judgment with compassion, something powerful happens. You stop fearing failure and start embracing growth. You become more patient, more resilient, more human. So the next time your inner critic starts speaking, take a breath and remind yourself, you are a work in progress, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because the Stoics knew, it's not perfection that defines a great life, but the courage to keep improving, one day at a time. 7. Stop comparing yourself to others. It's so easy to fall into the trap of comparison. You open your phone and suddenly, everyone seems happier, richer, more successful than you. Their lives look perfect, while yours feels small. But here's what the Stoics would remind us. Comparison steals both gratitude and peace. It convinces us that we're behind, when in reality, we're just on a different path. Epictetus once said, if you wish to be happy, stop looking at what others are doing and look instead to what you are doing. Because the moment you measure your worth by someone else's progress, you lose sight of your own. Think about it. You can't see the full picture of someone's life. You only see their highlights, not their sleepless nights, their doubts, their struggles. And yet you compare your behind the scenes to their best moments. That's not fair, not to them, and not to you. The Stoic approach isn't about rejecting others' success. It's about admiring without envy, learning from people who inspire you, without letting that admiration turn into self-criticism. When you catch yourself comparing, pause and ask, what's actually in my control right now? Your effort, your attitude, your integrity. Those are the only things that define your worth, not how you rank against someone else. And here's a truth that changes everything. Gratitude and comparison cannot exist in the same heart. When you're grateful for your own path, even the messy, unfinished parts, comparison loses its power. You start to see that life isn't a race. It's a journey, one uniquely yours. And every step, even the slow ones, are still steps forward. So stop looking sideways. Look within. Admire others, yes, but keep walking your road. Because the Stoics knew, peace isn't found by being better than others. It's found by becoming better than you were yesterday. 8. Invest in yourself. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly invested in yourself? Not your job, not your bills, yourself. We live in a world that rewards constant productivity, doing more, earning more, rushing more. But what happens when you stop growing inside? You start to shrink, not in ability but in spirit. The Stoics believe that self-improvement isn't a luxury. It's an act of self-respect. Seneca compared life to a garden. If you don't tend it, weeds will take over. Your mind, your habits, your character, they need that same care. Yet many of us wait. We say, I'll start reading when I have time. I'll learn that skill when things calm down. But here's the truth. Things never really calm down. Life won't pause for your growth. You have to make time for it. The Stoics practiced reflection daily, not because they were chasing perfection, but because they wanted to stay awake in their own lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote every morning to understand himself better. Epictetus taught that education is the training of the soul, not just the mind. So start small. Read 10 pages a day. Spend 10 minutes meditating in silence. Pick up a new hobby, not for success, but for the joy of progress. Because every small effort is a seed, and those seeds, over time, become strength, wisdom, and confidence. When you invest in yourself, you stop waiting for permission. You stop relying on luck. You become your own foundation. Remember, you can lose everything, money, status, even relationships, but no one can ever take away the person you've become through growth. So today, choose to water your garden, feed your mind, strengthen your spirit. Because as the Stoics knew, the most powerful investment you'll ever make is you. 9. Stop seeking validation. Let's be honest, We all want to be seen. We all crave recognition, a little nod from the world saying you're doing great. But somewhere along the way, that desire turns into dependence. We start living not for ourselves, but for applause. The Stoics warned us about this trap. They taught that when your worth depends on what others think, you hand over your peace to strangers. Epictetus said it best: "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." In other words, don't trade your integrity for approval. The truth is, most people don't even see your full story. They see fragments, the version you allow them to see. So why should their judgment define your worth? You can be doing everything right and still, someone will disapprove. That's not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of them. The Stoic path is about turning inward, asking, am I acting from my values or from my fear of judgment? When your actions come from virtue, from wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, that's where your real power lies. Not in likes, not in titles, not in applause, but in alignment. Here's a simple practice. Before you act or speak, pause and ask yourself, would I still do this if no one noticed? If the answer is yes, that's freedom, that's self-respect. Because true success isn't a tea about how loud the world claps for you. It asks about how quiet your mind feels when you tree alone. It's about knowing that your choices match your principles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The approval of others is worthless unless it comes from a person who lives by reason." So stop chasing recognition, start building character. You'll realize that when you no longer need others to tell you you're enough, that is the moment you truly become unshakable. 10. Leaving toxic environments. Sometimes it's not your effort that's holding you back. It's your environment. You can water a seed endlessly, but if it's planted in poisoned soil, it won't grow. Yet so many of us stay in toxic places, unhealthy jobs, draining relationships, negative circles, because we're afraid to leave, afraid of uncertainty, afraid of being alone, afraid we're not good enough to start over. But here's what Stoicism teaches. You might not control the world around you, but you always control the world within you. You can always escape a toxic environment overnight, but you can refuse to let it infect your peace. Marcus Aurelius called this your inner citadel, the fortress within your mind that no one can invade unless you open the gate. You build it by setting boundaries, by walking away from drama that drains your energy, by choosing what you allow to take root in your thoughts. If the people around you constantly belittle your dreams, that's not humility, that's erosion. If your workplace rewards gossip more than growth, that's not culture, that's decay. And staying in those spaces out of fear doesn't make you loyal, it makes you smaller. You owe it to yourself to protect your peace, to seek out voices that lift you, not crush you, to spend time in communities where truth and growth are valued more than appearance. The Stoics weren't naive. They knew the world could be harsh, but they also believed that no matter how dark your surroundings, you can be the light. You can meditate, write, reflect. Rebuild your strength one quiet moment at a time, because the mind, once anchored in clarity, becomes unshakable. So if you're in a toxic environment, remember, you have a choice. You can let it define you, or you can rise above it. Build your inner citadel, guard your peace, and walk toward the places and people that help you grow. 11. Fear of chasing your dreams. There's a dream inside you, one that's been whispering for years. But every time you think of chasing it, something stops you. It's not the lack of time. It's not the lack of talent. It's fear. The fear of failure is a quiet thief. It steals your courage before you even take the first step. You start imagining everything that could go wrong. The judgment, the embarrassment, the disappointment. And before you know it, the dream fades, buried under excuses that sound reasonable but aren't true. The Stoics understood this fear deeply. That's why they practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would visualize the worst-case scenario, losing the job, facing rejection, making mistakes, and accept it before it ever happened. Why? Because once you've faced your fears in your mind, they lose their power over you in real life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's the truth. Fear only controls you when you try to avoid it, but when you face it, it becomes your teacher. The Stoics also taught amor fati, to love your fate. Not just to accept what happens, but to embrace it as necessary for your growth. Every setback, every rejection, every so-called failure, it's not punishment, it's preparation. Think about it. Every person who ever achieved something great once stood where you are now, trembling at the edge of uncertainty. The difference is they moved anyway. They understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite it. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Start before you feel ready. Make mistakes. Fall. Learn. Rise again. Because the only real failure is never trying at all. Your dream is not a coincidence, it's a calling, and life will keep whispering it to you until you finally listen. 12. Finding your inner worth. In a world obsessed with titles, numbers, and possessions, it's easy to forget where true worth comes from. We spend our lives chasing achievements, promotions, recognition, wealth, hoping they'll make us feel complete. But here's the truth. None of those things define who you are. Because the moment they disappear, what's left? The Stoics believed that your real value doesn't come from what you have, but from who you are, from your character, your integrity, your ability to stay kind, honest, and grounded even when life tests you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," meaning your worth is shaped not by the world outside, but by what you choose to cultivate inside. The problem is, we've been trained to measure ourselves by comparison, to look left and right instead of within. You see someone achieving more, earning more, being praised more, and suddenly your light feels dimmer. But your value isn't a competition. It's a constant. You were born with it. No one can take it away. So how do you reconnect with that inner worth? Start by reflecting. Not on what you've achieved, but on who you've become. Be grateful for the strength you've built through hardship, for the patience you've learned through struggle, for the kindness you've chosen when it wasn't easy. And stop letting other people's opinions become your mirror. Their praise doesn't make you worthy. Their criticism doesn't make you worthless. You define you. The Stoics taught us to keep a long vision, to live by values, not outcomes. Because in the end, the question isn't, what did you own? It's, how did you live? Did you act with courage, compassion, and purpose, even when no one was watching? That's what true worth is. It's not loud, it's not fragile, it's steady, it's silent, and it's already inside you, waiting to be remembered. Are you feeling unworthy of happiness? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, maybe I don't deserve to be happy? That silent thought, it creeps in after disappointment, after failure, or when you've been hurt too many times. It whispers that happiness belongs to other people, not you. But that voice is a liar. The Stoics taught that happiness isn't a reward for being perfect. It is the natural result of living in alignment with your values. It's not something you have to earn. It's something you allow yourself to feel when you stop running from who you are. So many of us carry invisible wounds from the past, words that made us doubt our worth, comparisons that made us feel small. We replay those memories so often that they become our truth. But you are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are the one who learns from them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And those thoughts, they begin with the story you tell yourself. So maybe it's time to change that story. Instead of asking, "Do I deserve happiness?" ask, "What if I treated myself like someone who does?" Gratitude is the first step, not for what's missing, but for what's already here. For the breath you take, for the people who care, for the chance to try again. And you don't have to do it alone. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your light when you forget it. Build connections that lift you, not drain you. Happiness grows stronger in community, where love, kindness, and understanding are shared freely. Remember, you were born worthy. You don't need to prove it. Happiness isn't waiting for a better version of you. It is waiting for you to believe that you are already enough. So today, let's stop chasing perfection and start accepting peace. Because when you finally believe you deserve happiness, you open the door for it to stay. When all is said and done, there's one truth the Stoics never stopped reminding us of. You are the architect of your destiny, the sculptor of your own happiness. Life will not always be gentle. It will test you, shake you, and sometimes break you open. But every challenge that tries to tear you down can also be the very thing that builds your strength. That's the Stoic path. Not to run away from hardship, but to transform it. To use the pain as material. To take chaos, uncertainty, and loss, and shape them into wisdom, character, and peace. Because at the end of the day, true power isn't found in control. It's found in calm. It's the courage to love deeply even after being hurt. It's the patience to keep showing up, even when progress feels invisible. It's the quiet strength to choose virtue over ego, and purpose over comfort. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's what this journey is about. Not perfection, but practice. Every day you get to choose the kind of person you're becoming. Every moment, you shape the foundation of your future self. So live with courage, love with depth, and seek joy, not as a distant reward, but as your birthright. Because you were never meant to live in fear. You were meant to rise, wiser, stronger, freer. And if this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, live it. Let's help more people discover what the Stoics knew long ago, that everything we seek, peace, meaning, happiness, has always been within us. Stay stoic, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.